A garbage island in the middle of the Jordan River, and it's likely one of many. Where it's all coming from and the plan to clean it up.
A new report outlines a dozen critical issues facing the state. I'll tell you what they are coming up.
Some storms start the week, but major changes are coming where we could see some snow.
The Utah woman accused of killing her husband and then writing a book about grief wrote a letter from jail.
In this case, it seems like something shocking happens about every couple of months.
Tonight, we have that letter, why prosecutors say it uncovers some serious problems.
Of course, no one wanted to own up to it and pay for the damages, so it's now on us.
Broken windshields, damaged homes, what's flying around one Utah neighborhood, and why residents say it's time for the city to step in.
Live from Utah's news leader, Fox 13 News at 9 starts right now.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us tonight. I'm Kelly Chapman.
And I'm Bob Evans. Salt Lake City's Rose Park Golf Course attracts players who like natural features such as the Jordan River, which runs right through the middle of it.
But Fox 13 News reporter Jenna Bree shows us something that is trashing the beauty.
When we have things like this, it doesn't look good for Salt Lake City.
Joseph Meyer was heading across the bridge to play the back nine the other day when he noticed a big island of garbage on the Jordan River.
As I walked through here, I happened to see this, and I was shocked. So, and then people were driving by, biking on the path and jogging, but nobody seemed to care.
And it's not the only one. The Jordan River Commission has recently counted about 20 of these islands.
There have been a number of storms, and when there are storms, trees fall down, limbs fall down into the Jordan River, and those become dams for stuff that runs down through our stormwater system.
Soren Simonson says litter that shoots down storm drains all over Salt Lake, Utah, and Davis counties ends up in the Jordan River. Recently, Salt Lake City created a special wetland area to try to mitigate the garbage.
Rather than sending all the stormwater that runs off paved streets and parking lots directly to the Jordan River, this facility allows it to filter through a water treatment system and then goes through a waterfall that aerates it, and then the water eventually moves through this wetland before emerging in the Jordan River.
The Commission's Get to the River Festival this year is focused on celebrating the Jordan River and getting people to care about protecting it.
We're just encouraging people this month to be really mindful about their connections to the watershed and to make cleaning up around your home, your business, your school, your park, wherever you spend time, part of your regular activity.
Tuesday night, the Salt Lake City Council will be looking at a grant application for tree and debris removal on the Jordan River. In Salt Lake City, Jenna Bree, Fox 13 News, Utah.
Today, Utah House Speaker Brad Wilson announced he will resign from the legislature effective November 15th. He is expected to mount a bid for U.S. Senate, specifically for the seat Utah Senator Mitt Romney is vacating. Utah House Majority Leader Mike Schultz is planning to go for Speaker once Wilson steps down. Fox 13 News political reporter Ben Winslow spoke exclusively with Speaker Wilson after he gave notice to his fellow lawmakers in St. George today.
I've really enjoyed working closely with all of my colleagues through some difficult times through COVID, but we've also done some remarkable things, whether it's been cutting taxes or making big investments in the state's future, including big pay increases for education. And we live in a great state, and great people help lead it, and I'm just really proud of all the work that we've done here. People love living in Utah for good reason.
Safe to say, though, this is not the last of your public service.
Yeah, stay tuned. We've got more in store.
Speaker Wilson is going into this race potentially with a significant amount of campaign money. He says he plans to make a big announcement 1 week from Wednesday. Kelly?
That major news about Speaker Wilson came on the first day of a historic interim session for the legislature. Lawmakers decided to get off the Hill for committee meetings, meeting at Utah Tech University in St. George. Legislators hope this will give Utahns who may not typically attend hearings in person at the Capitol the opportunity to engage with the legislative process.
Really exciting for us, and we feel honored and respected, and like we'll have a chance to speak in ways that we might not be able to at the Capitol. We tend to really pay attention down here, be active, engaged, and I think this is a smart move.
The hearings in St. George are also an opportunity for lawmakers to see how the other side of the state lives.
Washington County is, our population is big enough now that we can't be ignored, and we feel like in the past we haven't necessarily been given the respect that we've always wanted, but we're obviously very excited to have the growth and to have a little bit more influence in how the state runs.
Meantime, a major government report released tonight has identified a dozen critical issues facing our future here in Utah.
Fox 13 News political reporter Ben Winslow takes a deep dive from St. George into some of the biggest problems facing Utahns and what your elected leaders plan to do about them.
In a first-of-its-kind report, the Utah State Legislature's Auditor General created a high-risk list of issues facing us all.
We're looking at issues and concerns and vulnerabilities to the state.
The 128-page audit highlights a huge list of critical problems. Number one, water. Despite a record-breaking winter, Utah is still recovering from years of drought. Population growth will only demand more water. There's also the shrinking Great Salt Lake and problems that poses. A footnote in the report says dust mitigation could cost as much as $1.5 billion, with ongoing annual maintenance costs of $15 million. The audit says that figure skyrockets if more surface area is exposed.
And I think that all Utahns have to be concerned that if we don't do the right things now, that we'll be paying much higher costs later.
Water infrastructure like dams and drinking water systems are aging. Auditors say they plan to scrutinize agriculture use in future reports, given that lawmakers spent $276 million in taxpayer dollars to get farmers to switch to water-saving tech.
I appreciate the call out on education as being one of the most critical issues in this state, and that there's risk involved if we don't provide our schools with the resources that they need.
Mental health and substance abuse are also significant problems. While crisis services have improved, we still lack a lot of resources.
We found that there are access and capacity concerns in this area.
The audit says suicide is the leading cause of death for Utahns ages 10 to 24, and Utah has lost more than 600 individuals to suicide each year since 2015, more than double the number of deaths due to motor vehicles. Utah also suffers from significant employment vacancies across the board, but auditors found it critical in state government jobs. Affordable housing is a big issue. The audit found 25% of the state's population is cost-burdened by housing. Rents have also grown. From 2020 to 2022, rents grew more than the previous 2 decades. Energy demands are another big issue, and Utah is constantly at risk for cyber attacks. The state also needs to diversify its tax base more and spend more money to ensure buildings are seismically sound in the event of an earthquake.
There's some things that we need to step up and address as we move forward.
Fixing these problems will cost money, and in some cases, it could be tens of billions of dollars. But you can expect lawmakers to begin addressing them in the upcoming legislative session that starts in January. In St. George, Ben Winslow, Fox 13 News, Utah.
Fox 13 News will continue to be on the ground in southern Utah with much more coverage of the interim session in the coming days. Stay with us on air, online, and on social media for the latest updates.
Now to an update on a wildfire in Wasatch County. Crews have fully contained the Evening Star fire. The lightning-caused blaze near the Summit County line and Jordanelle Reservoir is on private land. It was threatening 4 homes in the Victory Ranch community. Nobody was evacuated and no damage has been reported. Firefighters and a nearby excavation crew were able to quickly stop forward movement on the fire, keeping the fire to just under 1.5 acres in size. Fire personnel will continue to monitor the blaze.
Good news to see that fire under control. Summit County was not the only area to see lightning and rain earlier, Allison.
That's right. So we had widely scattered thunderstorms here across the state. We had a pretty strong cell that moved through the Wasatch Front south end of the Salt Lake Valley around 3-4 o'clock today. We are going to continue with chances for showers throughout the week, but our best chances will be second half of the week. 75 degrees in Salt Lake right now. We've got 74 degrees currently in Ogden, 72 degrees in Provo right now. Still a few showers going mainly about Utah County further south, a little bit of lightning as we look just south of Spanish Fort Canyon into central Utah, down towards about Castledale, Scipio, Delta, a few areas of rain showers down towards Capitol Reef and Canyonlands, but nothing too strong right now, not expecting any problems overnight. Temperatures right now here across the state mainly 60s and 70s for the Wasatch Front this evening. We'll drop into the 60s for most of your overnight hours and for tomorrow morning as we dry out here across the state. We're going to have a fantastic start to your day tomorrow. 50s and 60s. Big changes on the way, though. More on that coming up.
Big changes could be coming to one Utah town's liquor laws. What two developers want to do in this dry community.
A hidden gem in Utah's Millard County is getting a spotlight tonight. We'll take you inside and under the Gandy Warm Springs.
The Utes limp into Pac-12 play this week against UCLA. Just how banged up are the Utes? You'll have to hear what Kyle Whittingham has to say about how many players have missed action this season.
After decades of alcohol not on the shelves and not served in restaurants, the city of Highland in Utah County is considering changing that.
And it's all because of a potential new development. Fox 13 News reporter Emily Tenser joins us live from Highland in Utah County tonight. Emily just got out of an informational meeting between the city and those developers. Emily, what did you find out?
Bob Kelly, that meeting here at Mountain Ridge Junior High wrapped up about an hour ago. And it was a pretty impressive turnout with over 100 residents showing up eager to learn more and get their questions answered.
Perfect. Let's get this started then.
If you visit Highland, Utah, you can't get a beer at the bar or pick up a pack at the store. That's because beer sales have been banned since the city was founded in 1977.
So this has been something that has been on Highland City residents' minds since the very beginning.
Highland has been one of 10 dry communities in Utah, according to a Utah Beer Wholesalers Association survey in 2014, but two developers are hoping to change that.
It was never our intention to say seek out restaurants to sell alcohol. I don't drink alcohol, Darren doesn't drink alcohol.
M&G Development presented to Highland residents Monday night, showcasing their plans for a new shopping center with a play area, stores, and many potential restaurants.
Full service dining experience with tablecloth, weighted tables. We have not had any come to us willing to say I'll come and not sell alcohol.
In order to change the city code, developers have to submit an application and city council will make the decision.
This is an interesting project, an interesting piece of property, and it needs to be something really cool. It needs to be something deserving of the community that surrounds it.
Although their application for alcohol was for this specific commercial area only, City Administrator Aaron Wells says the City Council might take this a step further.
They'll first have to act on this application on this one area, but it's very likely that this is then going to carry through and impact the rest of Highland, not just this one area.
The city administrator says the city council will vote on this decision either the first week of November or sometime in January. So in the meantime, they're sending out surveys to collect informal resident feedback. Reporting live in Highland, Emily Tenser, Fox 13 News, Utah.
Emily, thanks. If you are looking for a cool remote part of the state to check out, Fox 13 News anchor Max Roth has a recommendation.
He just visited Gandy Warm Springs. It's a long way from everything, more than 100 miles from Delta and about 30 miles from the Nevada state line.
Okay, I'm here at Gandy Warm Spring. It looks beautiful. Look how clear that water is. It's crystal clear. I'm weighing back in this cave, and because my phone is my light, I can't light anything up, and so I'm completely in the dark back here in the water. So that's a little creepy, but I did want to share that this goes much further back than I thought it did. I thought there was just one cavern that you go into, and instead it's kind of this winding path. Feels safe, but still a little eerie when you're all alone.
Wow.
That's quite an adventure. I said earlier in the 5 o'clock news hour, there's no way I'd be doing that, going in those caves.
By yourself?
Max is an adventurer, for
Yeah, he
sure.
is. Yeah, we've seen some of his exploits before here on Fox 13 News, and I'll tell you what, that was interesting.
Yeah, very interesting. And I love hearing about the planning of his trips, then when he gets back, what went well, what didn't go well, what he learned for next time. And he's always giving us some great stories and adventuring all across the region that was near the Nevada border. So what we're tracking here in Utah for tonight, probably not the best adventuring weather. However, I could certainly go for a walk around the neighborhood right now. 75 degrees in Salt Lake right now. That sounds nice, doesn't it? 74 in Ogden, 72 as you're letting your dog out in Provo before bed tonight. Very comfortable, a little bit of a breeze, about 10 to 20 miles per hour. Chance for some isolated showers early in the evening, but that chance is decreasing as our night goes on. We'll have a mild morning tomorrow between partly and mostly cloudy sky. And then for tomorrow, partly cloudy and warm. Air quality will be moderate for your Tuesday, just like today. Temperatures right now, 60s and 70s here across the state. And as we're tracking that chance for showers, we're still seeing a little bit of rain going, mainly about Utah Lake and further south. The main lightning that I'm currently seeing is Spanish Fort Canyon, so Highway 6 near Soldier Summit and Price. Very isolated though, but always fun to see in the evening off in the distance. And then across southern Utah, we are really going to see some dry conditions for you for much of the 7-day forecast. We're really going to be focusing on northern Utah, especially getting into the second half of the week. So right now, speaking of the Nevada border, we're still seeing some showers going near Ely, mainly south of Wendover right now. And for tomorrow, we're not expecting any flash flooding in our recreation areas. So that's great news, especially when we've got people that like to come from around the world to do some exploring here in Utah. And comfortable temperatures in the morning, 50s and 60s as we wake up. So we're going to see decreasing precipitation overnight, 50s and 60s first thing tomorrow morning. This is 6 a.m. temperatures. And then throughout the day tomorrow, a little bit of wind is possible, again, about 15 to 20 miles per hour. But I think that will be a welcomed breeze as our temperatures tomorrow will make it into the 80s. So we'll have a chance for some isolated storms across Utah tomorrow, mainly in the northern part of the state. And then our temperatures are in the 60s when we first wake up, into the 80s tomorrow. For St. George, we've got temperatures that are going to be about 90 degrees for tomorrow. We will again see the chance for some showers, mainly across the northern part of Utah, but I want you to enjoy the 80s the next couple of days because we are going to majorly cool down Thursday and Friday, and then we'll get to be comfortable throughout Saturday and Sunday. So for St. George, your cool down's not as significant. You'll see about a 10-degree difference on Friday at 79, but for tomorrow, you're close to 90 degrees. Pretty much a dry forecast for the St. George area. For Salt Lake, we'll see a 20-degree cool down for Friday, with overnight temperatures dropping into the 40s. We'll break down our rain chances throughout the next 7 days for Salt Lake, Ogden, Provo, and St. George coming up in just a bit. But for tomorrow, 83 in Salt Lake City.
Thanks, Allison. Coming up, some growing Utah communities could soon see new schools in their neighborhoods. We'll take a look at when and where they could start construction.
The Cache County School District is growing and they want to make sure they have enough space to keep up. The Cache County Board of Education voted to place a $139 million bond proposition on the November ballot. If passed, the funding would allow the district to build new schools in both Hyde Park and Nibley. This comes as 11 of the district's 17 elementary schools are operating above capacity.
We're a fast-growing school district. We have just under 20,000 students, 25 schools. And in the last 10 years, we've grown by over 4,000 students in those 10 years. We've reached a point where we need to look at building space for those students outside of portables and back into a building structure.
The district will be holding informational meetings about the proposal throughout October and November.
Utah's national parks were crowded this summer, but the year-to-date numbers show how weather affects outdoor tourism. Every one of the Mighty Five saw quite a few more visitors this summer from June to August. Bryce Canyon saw a 6% increase and Zion saw 3%. The others fell in between. But look at the year so far, 2022 and 2023. Zion and Canyonlands had fewer visitors this year compared to last. The other parks saw 1% increases.
A recently revealed handwritten note in the Corey Richins case, prosecutors and the victim's family attorney says shows some real problems. I'm Amy Nay, and I'll have more on that story coming up.
A woman's windshield damaged after it was hit by a flying object. A few homeowners say their homes have been hit by a couple as well. Can you guess what it is? I'll show you.
EV charging stations are becoming more common across the state. We get a tour of the stations here in Salt Lake and how the city is working to become more EV friendly.
Big 12 play is finally here for BYU. We'll hear from the Cougars and head coach Kalani Sitake as they get ready to take on Kansas.
Shocking is how the Eric Richins family attorney described a newly discovered letter from Corey Richins written from her cell in Summit County.
She is awaiting trial after being charged in the murder of her husband. Fox 13 News anchor Amy Nay takes a look at the letter and has reaction.
What it looks like is an attempt to have someone make up a story for a trial.
Attorney Greg Skordas on this newly discovered letter now public in the Corey Richins case.
Pretty shocking, although in this case it seems like something shocking happens about every couple of months.
Skordas is spokesman for Eric Richins' family. Eric's wife, Corey, who wrote a book about grief after his death, is now awaiting trial in Summit County, charged in his murder. Prosecutors say she poisoned him with fentanyl.
It's like she's decided that her best defense is this certain course, and she's telling people to say those things that fit into that defense, even though they're apparently not even true.
Referencing this so-called walk the dog note by Corey, where she instructs her mother on a number of things, including to coach more than one person expected to testify in her trial. Things like, tell him I need him to do this, bring me home, and tell them to say Eric always wanted Corey to go down for him. This handwritten letter from Corey to her mom was actually found in a routine sweep of her cell by the sheriff and made public by the Summit County Attorney's Office as possible evidence of wrongdoing and witness tampering. Now, we found it at Fox this weekend. Anyone can access it on the court site. It's a letter that Skordas said could have been sealed, but he says reveals some serious issues.
I mean, you can't coach a witness what to say. You can't tell a witness they have to say something. That's classic witness tampering. You can contact a witness and say, hey, I really need you to contact the authorities and tell them the truth. But you can't contact a witness and say, I need you to tell somebody this particular narrative, because in this particular case, it's not true.
There is no trial date set, as evidence in the case said to be over 1 million pages is still being reviewed. The death penalty was ruled out, but this new development, Skordas says, has been troubling.
It's almost like she is sort of disassociating herself with the crime and trying to create a narrative that's not true. Like, you just expect a different attitude from a person under these circumstances.
Reporting from Salt Lake, Amy Nay, Fox 13 News, Utah.
Fox 13 News reached out to Corey Richins' attorney. We have not yet heard back.
Well, tonight we have an update on the Ruby Franke case. Hours before the YouTube star and her business partner Jodi Hildebrandt were scheduled to appear in court in St. George this morning on child abuse charges, their hearing was postponed. Attorneys wanted more time to review the evidence. No new date has been set yet, but it will be after October 5th. Meanwhile, a hearing in a separate case related to the Franke family took place in Provo. That was a child welfare hearing in juvenile court, so there is limited information being released.
New data from Utah's Department of Public Safety says marijuana is now the top drug people are driving under the influence of in deadly crashes. The Utah Legislature's Law Enforcement and Criminal Justice Committee was briefed on it at their meeting in St. George today. For years, methamphetamine was the top drug, but last year it was THC, followed by the antidepressant citalopram, ketamine, and generic amphetamines. Alcohol was not part of this particular survey. The State Crime Lab says methamphetamine remains the top illicit drug in Utah. That is based on lab submissions by law enforcement and medical personnel. It's followed by fentanyl, which recently surpassed heroin in popularity.
Utah Congressman Burgess Owens wants to add protections for universities and individuals being investigated by the NCAA. Owens joined Tennessee Representative Kustoff and California Representative Harder to introduce the NCAA Accountability Act. The bill includes requiring the NCAA to complete any investigation no later than 1 year after they begin, as well as establishing a 2-year statute of limitations. It would also prohibit the association from publicly disclosing info from ongoing investigations until formal charges are filed.
Coming up, cars and homes hit by golf balls flying off course in Tooele. What neighbors want done to protect their property. And are you on board with electric cars? We look at one of the things holding some drivers back and what Salt Lake is doing to perhaps ease their minds.
In Tooele, drivers and homeowners say golf balls have been hitting their cars and properties.
Fox 13 News reporter Darian DeBrule shows us what they're hoping the city will do to prevent more damage.
I had a kid that thought it was a gunshot. I had my husband who thought it was a blown tire.
Ashley Tierlink was driving on Drew Bay Road next to the Ochre Hills golf course in Tooele to get to her parents' house when her windshield was hit by a golf ball.
Thankfully, we hadn't been going faster. Otherwise, it would have hit one of my side passenger windows. And those aren't as robust as a front windshield. So that would have completely shattered and injured either my grandmother or I had young children sitting over there too.
Tierlink says she's never been concerned driving on Drew Bay because the driving range has a high net for protection. But she says this ball came from a side without netting.
We immediately stopped in the parking lot and went in and talked to the manager there. And he said he would go question the people on the golf course. And of course, no one wanted to own up to it and pay for the damages. So it's now on us.
I called Tooele City and they told me the liability for damaged property does fall on the individual golfer. If the golfer can't be found, the city encourages people to file a police report or a claim with the city. Tierlink isn't the only one to experience damage from flying golf balls that come from the golf course. Homeowners near the golf course say they've experienced hundreds, if not thousands of dollars worth of damage from mishit balls.
That window got shattered just a month or two ago. We had to replace it. So either someone had a perfect shot right through there, or maybe like I said, maybe the net blew up. Back window of the vehicle there got shattered one morning, and you can kind of see on the garage there, the siding gets cracked every so often.
In Jason Otis's 2 years of living next to the golf course, he says his family has collected hundreds of golf balls.
Sometimes they sell them to the golfers on the golf course for $5 a dozen.
Some that have just landed in his yard, others that have hit his home or truck.
It's hard to blame the golf course because it's the individual golfers who, I don't know if they get a wild shot every so often or what, but we got this whole big fence line right here that it would be nice if there was a net up.
Tierlink also agrees netting could help prevent damage, but also thinks the road should have warning signs for drivers.
It would have been nice if there had been a sign warning you, like, you're taking risk by driving through here. You could get hit by a ball, and if you don't know who did it, you're going to pay for the costs.
Tooele City said they are committed to being a good neighbor and have been looking into netting around a few homes and have done other things to prevent damage. In Tooele, Darian DeBrule, Fox 13 News, Utah.
Well, it was a warm start to the week. 86 today in Salt Lake. Just wait till you hear how cold it's going to get. I'll let you know when and where we'll see some snow.
There's a change at starting quarterback at Utah State. We'll hear from Blake Anderson coming up in sports. And injuries have been a major theme for Utah. Kyle Whittingham will tell us how many key players have been out so far this season.
Federal lawmakers are racing to come up with a plan to prevent a government shutdown. House Speaker Kevin McCarthy told his Republican conference today to be prepared to work through the weekend to pass a stopgap measure. That would keep government offices open past the September 30th deadline. If the federal government does shut down, the Utah legislature is prepared. House Speaker Brad Wilson and Senate President Stuart Adams confirmed they are prepared to pay to keep the parks open to benefit the communities around them.
We have got rural Utah and these towns around these national parks that depend tremendously on the economies related to tourism. We will support as much as we can these areas, and we just need Washington to do what we do in Utah. Which is to balance its budget, pay the bills on time, and start making some hard decisions like we do here.
The last time the federal government shut down for an extended period, the state paid for the parks to remain open. Despite the federal government's promises, Utah was never repaid for the millions of dollars it spent to keep the national parks open. Kelly?
Well, the Utah State Legislature is taking a second look at nuclear power. A committee in St. George today heard testimony from the Idaho Nuclear Laboratory about new, smaller-scale nuclear energy. The idea is to replace retiring coal-fired plants with a cleaner fuel energy.
There's a growing interest, and I think what's happening in Kenmare, Wyoming, with TerraPower's Natrium project has really sparked a lot of interest in other communities looking at similar projects.
The plan may face some opposition from environmental groups and southern Utah's downwinders from atomic testing.
The legislature's Interim Review and Taxation Committee held a hearing today on a bill that changes the definition of short-term rentals to mean a vehicle or housing that's less than 30 days. That'll shift how much taxes you pay to rent an Airbnb, rental car, or vacation rental. The state will save some money on a relatively mild wildfire season. Budget numbers presented to the legislature today indicate the state will carry more than $145 million over. That's money that would have been spent this year for catastrophic fires. Instead, it'll be put into a fund just in case things get worse next year. In 2015, there were more than 1,100 electric cars registered in the state of Utah. The Utah Tax Commission website says that number jumped to more than 16,000 in 2022.
And with more electric vehicles on our roads, Fox 13 News reporter Chris Arnold took a tour of where some of the EV charging stations are in Salt Lake.
I started driving electric in 2019.
Kelby Gopal is a senior associate of electrification with Utah Clean Energy.
I wanted to drive something that had zero tailpipe emissions, just knowing how bad our air quality is here.
Gopal taking Fox 13 News on a tour of some of the EV charging stations across Salt Lake City.
So what we're seeing here is level 2 charging, which people typically tend to use to sort of top off their tank. And you would get about 5 to 10 miles of range for an hour of charging.
In all, the city says they have 20 EV charging stations.
There are public charging stations that are sometimes free, like these ones that are owned by Salt Lake City. There are also charging stations at private businesses like grocery stores or retail centers. Range anxiety is definitely becoming a thing of the past. We're seeing more and more charging stations pop up.
Gopal says about 80% of EV charging takes place at home.
Charging accessibility in multifamily housing just isn't there yet. This is definitely a gap in the charging space.
A gap the Salt Lake City Sustainability Department is working to address. Back in April, the Salt Lake City Council voted to adopt the Electric Vehicle Readiness Update to the Off-Street Parking Ordinance. Sophia Nicholas, the Deputy Director of the city's Sustainability Department, says this is one way to make future multifamily construction EV ready, by providing a minimum of 20% EV-ready parking spaces installed on site.
They don't have to install the actual EV stations for 20% of the stalls, but they just need to be ready so that as that demand picks up, people will have that option of living somewhere where they can charge at home.
The Sustainability Department providing Fox 13 News with these numbers on Monday, showing the number of registered electric vehicles in Salt Lake County jumped from 624 in 2015 to more than 11,000 in 2023.
It's supporting electric vehicle infrastructure and the increased adoption of electric vehicles as part of the city's overall climate plan, where we want to reduce greenhouse gas emissions 80% by 2040.
Nicholas tells me their department is leading a community electric transportation assessment that got going last month. She says one thing that will help identify is where there are gaps where more EV charging stations are needed. She says the assessment will wrap up in the spring of next year. In downtown Salt Lake, Chris Arnold, Fox 13 News, Utah.
All right. Fox 13 News is continuing our coverage of Hispanic Heritage Month. Youth with the group Latinos in Action in North Salt Lake. They were celebrating with the community at the local food trucks and vendor fair in Legacy Park tonight. We asked the group's president about why Hispanic Heritage Month means so much.
There's a lot of Latinos in the world, and we try to be a part of everything and celebrate with everyone and show our differences.
If you have community events you want us to know about during Hispanic Heritage Month, send us an email at news@fox13now.com.
We had 86 degrees for a high today. We were above average by about 5 to 10 degrees. 75 currently here in Salt Lake as we're getting ready for bed on this Monday. We head into the next couple of days. We have a few more days in the 80s. Then we have some really big changes on the way. Second half of the week. We're going to be cooling down for northern Utah about 20 degrees by Friday, maybe even 25 degrees actually in some places. Snow levels will be dropping to about 9,000 feet, potentially even down to about 8,500 feet. So we're going to see mountain snowfall second half of the week, more widespread precipitation. We did have some storms today that produced heavy rainfall. We had one flash flood warning for the Dollar Ridge burn scar. That expired at 5:45, where we're still seeing a little bit of rain right now, and a little stray lightning strike between Goshen and Spanish Fork, south end of Utah Lake. Really just seeing some light rain though, but potentially you might see some lightning off in the distance for an evening commute. A little bit of rain through Spanish Fork Canyon. We're going to keep things mostly dry across far southern Utah the next couple of days, and then our chance of precipitation for the Wasatch Front is pretty low heading into the next 24 hours. It's not non-existent though. For Ogden between 6 and 9 a.m. you might pop up an isolated chance for some showers, but mostly looking at a pretty dry next 24 hours for the Wasatch Front, although we will see some isolated storm activity for tomorrow afternoon. When you wake up tomorrow, partly to mostly cloudy sky in northern Utah. It'll be a pretty fantastic start to your Tuesday, comfortable with 50s and 60s, and then temperatures tomorrow rising again into the 70s and 80s. Now we'll have some widely scattered to isolated storm activity, mainly in the northern half of Utah, as we look at some pretty big changes to arrive from the north. A cold storm arrives Thursday into Friday, and this is going to bring us increased chances for showers, mainly in the northern half of the state Thursday into Friday, and much cooler temperatures for a couple of days. So the chance of precipitation in Ogden is isolated for the most part Tuesday through Thursday, but Thursday night through Friday, that's your best chance for precipitation in Ogden. For the Provo area, your best chance for some rain will be Thursday night into Friday also. And for St. George, you're likely staying dry throughout the 7-day forecast as that storm moves in from the north. So we'll see our best chances for showers into northern Utah, mainly around 1/2 inch of precipitation for northern Utah for the Wasatch Front. Temperatures in St. George, 79 on Friday. Beyond that, you're in the 80s for the next week. And for Salt Lake, we have 80s Tuesday, Wednesday, 75 Thursday, 62 degrees on Friday for a high.
11th ranked Utah is a perfect 3-0 after non-conference play, but they're not alone. 8 Pac-12 teams are also 3-0 and ranked in the top 25, including number 22 UCLA. The Utes will play their first conference game this Saturday against the Bruins at 1:30 right here on Fox 13. The Utes could still be without starting quarterback Cam Rising on Saturday. He's not played yet this season as he recovers from a torn ACL, so Nate Johnson may get his second career start against the Bruins. But the Utes are dealing with injuries all over the field. Kyle Whittingham said they've been without 16 starters or major contributors.
Offensively and defensively, you got about 35 guys. Yeah, in fact, I did the number today, 36 guys, I think it was, that figure in prominently to what you're doing. And when you're down 16 of those, you got 20 guys left, and it starts to get really thin. But nobody cares. In fact, I'm sure UCLA is very thankful that we're beat up. And I think if we're sitting here at complete full strength, I think we're a very good football team. But that's pointless really to think about that, because that's not the case. And so you just do the best you can with the circumstances that you have.
BYU will play their first conference game since 2010 this week when they play Big 12 play at Kansas. It's a moment the Cougars have been waiting for a long time, and now it's here. BYU is also off to a 3-0 start with an impressive win at Arkansas on Saturday. The Jayhawks are also 3-0, but this should be their toughest challenge so far this season, with a confident BYU team that's ready to show they can be a force in the Big 12 Conference.
I am really excited about the competition, about the game, and the opportunity to go out to Kansas and to be on that field and play against them. They're really a great program in the way that they're coached, and I like their young men on their team. So this is a Big 12 opening game, so we're really excited about that, about being in Kansas, but also excited that we are in the partnership and that we are working together with the Big 12. So this is going to be a lot of fun.
Utah State has made a quarterback change. Last week in their loss to Air Force, Cooper Legas was replaced by freshman McKay Hillstead. That change will continue this week against James Madison.
McKay will be the starter going into tomorrow's practice. I had good long talks with both McKay and Coop and Levi, honestly, just about their roles and kind of where I'm at and what do I expect. I hate being in the situation we're in, but it's my job to assess it and move forward as I think fits our team the best and gives us the best chance to win right now.
Hey, we'll be right back.
Thanks for being part of Fox 13 News at 9.
Hope you can stick around for QuickCast next.